309 phase _5 determining secret dualistic grasping and revealing the way of Natura L liberation. Phase 5 determining secret dualistic grasping and revealing the way of natural liberation. The process of delusion in impure samsara. Bodhisattva Vajra of pristine awareness then commented, O teacher, Bhagavan, over lifetimes from beginningless time up to the present, with the cause of ignorance and the contributing condition of dualistic grasping, blind sentient beings of the three realms continuously, incessantly cling to delusive cycles in the endless abodes of samsara. Dominated by the collective contaminations of habitual propensities within the shell of ignorance, they are oppressed by great burdens of suffering. But by the power of wisdom and primordial consciousness, the shell of habitual propensities is opened up. Before one awakens from the slumber of ignorance, one reifies the delusive sense of experiencing the miseries of samsara and the miserable states of existence, which were never really experienced. It is laughable how one clings to experiences. Why? While the bases of designations are not established as real, different names are designated upon objectless emptiness, and in that way one deceives oneself. Ha ha! All appearing phenomena are like mirages taken to be water, or like an illusory festival that one takes to be permanent and fixates on as if it were one's own possession. Former appearances vanish and later ones arise with no enduring presence, but because one doesn't notice this, one is bewildered. Ha ha! Not recognizing how appearances arise and transform, with no stability, one takes pride in one's accumulated possessions, as if they were one's eternal wealth. Ha ha! When one sees samsara and nirvana as the open, non-objective nature of great emptiness, all the Buddhas and Buddhafields that are misconstrued as sentient inhabitants and objects in the physical worlds fall into an abyss. Ha ha! When one sees that all physical worlds and the sentient inhabitants with all the sense objects, are totally groundless and rootless like a dream and an illusion, and when one sees that they seem to exist even though they do not, and that they simultaneously emerge and vanish in an instant like a flash of lightning, samsara is blown away by the wind. Ha ha! Not recognizing the fact that over beginningless lifetimes, one's own nature has never wavered for even an instant from the originally pure absolute space of phenomena, one appears to come and go and move about in samsara. Ha ha! Not recognizing the fact that over beginningless lifetimes one's own appearances arise to oneself, and apart from them, there has never been even an iota of any sensory object, one takes appearances, which one experiences with clinging attachment, as being other than oneself. Then one is constantly deluded by adopting hopes and fears. Ha ha! When one encounters one's own face as the great, original, primordial ground, one awakens to the unimpeded non-objectivity of all faults and habitual propensities. Ha ha! When one sees the absolute space of the ground, free of conceptual elaboration, the aid and injury brought about by gods and demons and by friends and enemies vanish without a trace. Ha ha! When the darkness of not knowing the absolute space of the ground is replaced by knowledge, enlightenment is not achieved by virtue of meditation, nor does one wander in samsara because of not meditating. Ha ha! When the ground Dharmakaya, the omnipresent Lord Samantabhadra, becomes manifest, one effortlessly reaches the kingdom of the Dharmakaya. Ha ha! When one gains mastery over primordial consciousness, pristine awareness free of extremes without needing to view or consider all the beings of the three realms, and without needing to exert strenuous effort, one simultaneously awakens to ultimate reality, absolute space that transcends causality. Ha ha! When one gains mastery over primordial consciousness, pristine awareness free of extremes, every single one of the innumerable mandalas of the Buddhas is perfected and actualized as one taste without convergence or divergence. Ha ha! When the pure, uniform displays of samsara and nirvana and the dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, are perceived, one instantly becomes perfectly enlightened, without reliance upon the stages of the grounds and paths. Ha ha! By hearing the sound of the words of this great Vajra laughter, one will fathom the real space of pristine awareness and realize these vast and profound points. How to follow the path of the great perfection. Bodhisattva Vajra of pristine awareness then asked, O teacher, Bhagavan, omnipresent Lord, immutable sovereign, original Buddha of the ground, how does one follow the path of your nature that is called the great perfection? Teacher, please explain. He replied, O son of the family, here is the way to follow the path of my nature, the great perfection, to proceed along the grounds and paths to liberation in this life. First you must know the reasons for the difficulty of obtaining a precious human life of freedom and opportunity, and those reasons must be firmly imprinted in your mainstream. In terms of the demarcation between samsara and nirvana, if you do not practice Dharma right now, you will not encounter the grounds and paths to liberation later on, and even if you meet with them, you will find it difficult to know how to put them into practice. It is difficult to encounter a guru, or sublime spiritual mentor, who can introduce you to pristine awareness. It is very difficult to have the freedom to practice, and it is hard to assemble all the necessities of life and requisites for practice. Except for right now, the methods for gaining freedom from the dungeon of samsaric miseries will not come again. Once you recognize this, you must enter the Dharma as your path. Recognizing that the time of death is unpredictable, consider that the thunderbolt of death may strike at any time and in any situation, and that you are now on the verge of being cast away from the human realm to some other realm. Bearing in mind all the miseries you will experience then, command your own mind, today I will leave everything behind, including my parents, relatives, home, and possessions, and they will remain just as they are. From now on, I will not even hear the names, I will not see even a fraction of them, and I will never return there again. When it comes time for me to depart, I will have no choice but to go where for eons I will be tossed about by waves of suffering, without the slightest bit of happiness, and I will be brought before the agents of the Lord of Death. A great hurricane of the winds of karma will push me from behind, the faces of my relatives, children, and spouse will be covered with tears, and the terrible cries of lamentation will aggravate my misery. Unable to let them go, when I desperately, pathetically proceed alone, with no companion, to an unknown destination, who will accompany me? Who will help carry the burden of my misery? Who will come to my rescue? Who will take on for me that unbearable suffering? What benefit will there be from the non-virtuous, evil karma I have accumulated for the sake of my children, relatives, and friends? They will never recall my kindness. Considering the examples of yourself and others, if in this life you don't even set out on the path to liberation, whatever you do will have no benefit whatsoever. The time of your death is unknown. If everyone, including children, the young, and the old, must die, and if there is no way of determining when you will die, then without procrastination you should quickly know why you need to practice the profound pith instructions on the sublime, supreme jnana for gaining liberation in one lifetime. And you must apply yourself to them assiduously. If you ignore death, the thought of the Dharma will subside, and you will fall under the domination of spiritual sloth, distractions, amusements, and hankering for material gain. In that way your life will pass in vain, and you will slip into death as an ordinary being, then fall into endless samsara. Recalling impermanence and death and considering these points again and again is the unsurpassed fundamental basis of the path to liberation. Without this, you will succumb to detrimental karma and situations as if you were blind and crippled, so that even if you have a Dharma practice, it will be feeble and will naturally unravel like a knot in a horse's tail. So know this. Knowing those 2 points and applying them to your mainstream, you should reflect upon karma and its consequences. Bearing in mind that the consequence of hatred is hell, just count the number of deeds you have committed that were motivated by hatred. Do you sense that you will be a guest in hell? Bearing in mind that the consequence of attachment is the preta realm, just look at your own attachment. If you count the number of deeds you have committed under its influence, do you see that you will be a guest in the realm of pretas? Bearing in mind that the consequence of delusion is the animal realm, if you examine the various foul deeds generated by that cause, you will find that you have been pursuing the path leading to a visit to the animal realm. Do you understand that where you dwell is definitely within samsara? Actions motivated by envy lead to the realm of asuras, and if you reflect upon the ways you have accumulated karma motivated by thoughts of envy, you will see that the guests of the asuras pursue the causes of that realm, and they return to their own realm again and again. Do you understand? Evil, non-virtuous deeds motivated by the three poisons of the afflicted mind include the three bodily non-virtues of killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct, the four verbal non-virtues of lying, slander, idle gossip, and abuse, and the three mental non-virtues of avarice, malice, and false views. The power of all these is generated by the causal motivations, and in this way the appearances of the three miserable states of existence emerge. In particular, if your samayas degenerate regarding the roots of secret mantra practice, namely, your guru and spiritual friends, you must fall to the excruciating realm known as VAJRA hell, so bear in mind that it is crucial to know these samayas. If you think that no faults are incurred for those who do not know them, you are mistaken. Those who are ignorant of them do not recognize whether or not the samayas have degenerated, so they do not take the opportunity to confess and purify them. Such people constantly incur great faults, and the consequences of their evil deeds, stemming from their ignorance and lack of awareness, manifest in their own time. This is like losing all your accumulated food and possessions because you are ignorant of the presence of a thief. There is not the slightest difference between this and knowingly being robbed of them by a bandit in broad daylight. Likewise, in terms of the karmic consequences and experiences of suffering, there is not even the slightest difference between those who are knowledgeable and those who are not. Those who know the samayas immediately understand when an infraction occurs, and by confessing it, they either purify it or diminish its harm. Those who do not know the samayas are unaware of infractions when they occur, so they continue to compound all the faults, downfalls, and broken samayas. By so doing, the infractions grow and increase, and they are never purified. O son of the family, until you reach the state of the great intellect transcending extinction into ultimate reality, examine the manner in which karma ripens, without its ever simply disappearing, and unerringly practice adopting virtues and abstaining from vices. Recognize the tremendous importance of this, and guard it as you do your own life. In particular, you must bear in mind the importance of abstaining from even the subtlest of vices and non-virtues. If you do not, and you become confused with regard to non-virtuous conduct, the power of evil deeds will gradually grow. Eventually, due to the subtle relations between actions and their results, various contaminations of habitual propensities will combine, and enormous consequences will emerge and inexorably carry you away. Therefore, knowledge of the significance of actions and the consequences is like an eye that enables you to see the path. Upon considering the nature of suffering in samsara, recognize that samsara is like a fire pit, like a viper's nest, and like a land of cannibals, without the slightest opportunity for happiness, and apply yourself to the pursuit of liberation. Bear in mind the indispensability of generating this attitude before engaging in Dharma practice. For those who do not train their minds in this way, even if they try to implement the profound practical instructions, as soon as there are difficulties and little things like hunger and thirst, they give up and fail to carry the practice through to its culmination. Once you have first trained in the four thoughts that turn the mind, it is vital that you bear them in mind constantly, without forgetting them, at all times and in all situations. Doing so is the unsurpassed crown jewel of all Dharma practitioners. Now, for the main practice, genuine knowledge and realization of the one taste of all of samsara and nirvana in the ocean of the original ground is called the view of the vast expanse of space, and this entails the manifestation of your own nature as the Dharmakaya, devoid of signs. As for meditation, throughout beginningless lifetimes in samsara, the original, primordial ground, Samantabhadra, has pervaded the min streams of all sentient beings, just as sesame oil pervades sesame seeds. However, under the influence of dualistic grasping and clinging to true existence, the mind becomes dimmed, as if by darkness, and deluded. But now, apart from identifying your own nature, there is nothing whatsoever on which to meditate, and you thereby gain freedom for yourself. As a result of holding your own ground, freedom is experienced in the domain of pristine space, unstructured and unmodified by the intellect, and you are infinitely immersed in great, self-emergent, primordial rest. This is like space merging with space. Previously, your intellect demarcated outer from inner and grasped atom as being distinct. Now, ascertaining that there is no outer or inner, you come upon the nature of great, all-pervasive openness, which is called meditation free of the intellect and devoid of activity. In such a meditative state, motionlessly rest your body without modifying it, like a corpse in a charnel ground. Let your voice rest unmodified, dispensing with all speech and recitations, as if your voice were a lute with its strings cut. Let your mind rest without modification, naturally releasing it in the state of primordial being, without altering it in any way. With these three, dispensing with activities of the body, speech, and mind, you settle in meditative equipoise that is devoid of activity. For that reason, this is called meditative equipoise. Whenever you engage in any kind of physical or verbal activity, such as eating, lying down, walking, sitting, or going about in the marketplace or among crowds of people, maintain the constant awareness of ascertaining all things as displays of the non-duality of samsara and nirvana, without ever losing the power of this view. Never waver from the state of manifest pristine awareness, devoid of action, in which you retain the confidence of meditation. Abstain from the vices of non-virtuous actions as if they were poison, never allowing your conduct to slip into carelessness. For your physical conduct, act slowly and serenely, firmly and resolutely, like a clay statue. When walking, move deliberately, taking each step in an easy-going manner. Let your demeanor be like that of a lion, without swiveling your head or glancing quickly to the right or left. When rising, get up slowly, not abruptly, and when eating, chew and swallow deliberately, not like a yak gobbling grass. When conversing with others, abstain from flippant speech, and speak gently and slowly. Adjust your speech so that you express the truth, speaking pleasantly and deliberately, without disturbing the minds of others. Let your mind be calm, subdued, and spacious without succumbing to emotional vacillations. The way to bring your mind to the Dharma is by having kind thoughts and great altruism, while speaking and behaving without deviousness or self-aggrandizement. In particular, as a sign of your own great defects, you may see everyone as being flawed, without perceiving anyone as being faultless. This perception is like that of someone who has ingested datura and sees everything as snakes, or someone with a bile disorder who sees a conch as yellow. People you see and experience as being different from yourself are invariably perceived as being imperfect, while you see no faults in those who are close to you, such as your brothers, sisters, nephews, and uncles, whom you invariably regard as being good. This is tantamount to seeing your own side as divine and the other side as demonic. Enough of that. View everyone as being flawless, and recognize all defects as your own. This is a crucial aspect of conduct. When you possess status and prestige, do not disregard all those who are weak, powerless, impoverished, or timid. If you fail to behave amicably with everyone, there is the possibility that misfortune will eventually befall you, and others will rise up against you in anger. As conditions degenerate, everyone in a position of royalty, power, and wealth eventually falls to an inferior position and poverty. Upon examining this matter, it is crucial that you bear malice toward no one. When high status, prestige, and affluence come your way, adopt a sense of humility and overcome any sense of pride. When you encounter misfortune and terrible surroundings, do not let your inner strength wane, but bring forth confidence in your view and meditation, and release your consciousness without an object, as if you were an idiot. Moreover, knowing appearances to be like illusions and dreams is another crucial aspect of your conduct. On occasions of joy and happiness, avoid self-conscious pride, and at times of hunger, cold, and thirst, bring forth the strength of your mind and the confidence of the view. Do not utter words of abuse or slander toward anyone, but devote yourself to equanimity. But do not flatter others either. Instead, remain at rest, for the end result of both reviling and glorifying others is that when those you have praised offend you, you will want to put them down, and when those you have insulted support you, you will be compelled to commend them. Then others will ridicule you, and your own flaws will become apparent. If you deny the excellent qualities of your enemies and opponents and instead speak of the faults, even though everyone knows of the talents and virtues, others will become disgusted with you and think of these defects as your own. Since your abusive words inflict no harm upon your enemies, dispense with them. Moreover, by extolling the virtues of your friends and relatives, who have their own flaws, everyone will despise and ridicule you. So the importance of avoiding this is another crucial aspect of your conduct. As a result of lying, you will fall into disgrace, and everyone will despise you as if you were dog meat. No matter what you say, people will take it to be a lie, and you will not be accorded the status of a human being. If you steal or break an oath, even though others may pretend not to know about it, secretly they will all come to gossip about it and vilify you for it. So abstain from such conduct. If you engage in disgusted, adversarial contempt or abuse toward any guru or teacher, your path to liberation will be blocked, and this will become an enormous weight pulling you down to the miserable states of existence. As taught in the Tantras, scriptures, and pith instructions, do not succumb to the slightest bit of such behavior, even at the cost of your life and body. This is the root of the Dharma, so bear it in mind as something of the greatest importance. By being attracted and addicted to talking and gossiping and seeing benefit in savoring words, your life may be spent in vain, and for the most part such talk becomes the basis for bickering, disputation, and irritation. This is pointless, so dispense with such entertainment and apply yourself to meditation. Even if you had a galaxy of food and wealth, you would never be satisfied. So for the duration of this human life, which is but a momentary dream, be content simply that you are not dying of starvation, regardless of how much food you have, and be satisfied with being protected from the elements regardless of the quality of your clothes. For the most part, food and clothing are detrimental objects of attachment, which at the time of death lead to rebirth as a demon. They are called possessions because they possess you to take birth in miserable states of existence and samsara, so even their name indicates the causal influence. Friends venture forth into the Dharma, taking their own measure of things, without heeding anyone's advice. No one but a qualified guru can provide them with counsel that will be of lasting benefit to them, so heed your guru's guidance as a lifelong samaya. Think of beings who constantly strive with great diligence and courage, enduring all manner of hardships, in tasks that propel them along endlessly in samsara. With them in mind, willingly accept the hardships involved in applying yourself to methods that bring eternal bliss. Abandon what is easy. Let your body and vitality be targets. Sacrifice your flesh and blood as food. If you do not constantly apply yourself to generating courage and fortitude, arouse yourself by thinking, I will die in a while. Whatever Dharma you practice, attend to the benefit of all sentient beings and apply yourself wholeheartedly to arduous virtues without showing off or using pretense in order to gain others' admiration or praise. As for your samayas and vows, be guileless. Do not disparage the Dharma or individuals. The conduct of Dharma practitioners is to treat everyone impartially, without fawning on those in high positions or denigrating those in low positions. Do not deceive others. Do not offend the faithful. Do not beguile the minds of those applying themselves to virtue. Do not partake of food and wealth meant for those practicing in meditative retreat. By diligently applying yourself to practice, without letting the practical instructions you have received fade away, qualified gurus will not rebuke you. By being completely candid about your samayas and vows, gods and guardians will not rebuke you. By saturating your life with the Dharma, without pretense or hypocrisy, you will have no cause to rebuke yourself. This is the practice of the Buddhas, and the followers should maintain it as the best of practices. For the duration of this fleeting human life, there is no time or leisure for pursuing such things as high status, power, or wealth. Abstain from self-praise and pretense motivated by the desire for fame and status, and hold in your heart the awareness of your own mortality. Never forsaking the precious three jewels is the sublime foundation and root of the practice. Modify your physical and verbal conduct in these ways, and be on guard not to fall into carelessness. Attend to this, realize it, and adhere to it. This is the crucial guidance for your conduct in between sessions. Carrying through with the practice of meditative equipoise and post-meditative practice in the above manner until you die is the sublime essence of the practice. The essential point of conduct is not to forsake the view in the midst of your daily activities. Even though you strive in cultivating physical and verbal virtues and accumulate an enormous amount of merit, if you discard the practice of the profound view and meditation, when you face death you will do so as an ordinary person, and your practice will have sustained and furthered samsara. As a result, you may experience merely temporary joys of gods and humans, but the fruits of liberation will remain beyond reach, and because of that failure you will remain in bondage. Therefore, once you have achieved the stability of confidence in the profound view and meditation, virtuous qualities of the body and speech that can be seen or heard cannot replace the authentic view and meditation. For example, when the lion, king of beasts, haughtily gazes out over the snowy mountains, no other creature can challenge him. Similarly, you must recognize the importance of not allowing the view and meditation to be lost as you come under other influences. If you lose the view in the midst of your daily activities, know that this is like a king losing his realm to someone else. If you forsake proper conduct in favor of the view, you will fall under the influence of negligence, which is like succumbing to maras and rudras, and out of your addiction to the activities of samsara, a great current of negative actions will emerge, resulting in false views regarding the three jewels and disregard for the moral consequences of your behavior. As you fail to implement the ultimate view and meditation, you will not even have the means to accumulate merit for attaining the state of gods or humans. This is like veering from a path on which you are seeking healing medicinal herbs and running into a plant that is poisonous to the touch. In this case, it is said that friends turn into maras. It is the profound view that cures the terrible, chronic disease of the sufferings of samsara. But if it leads your mind to paths of iniquity, it will cause you to experience the endless miseries of samsara. The remedy for ignorance is knowledge, and the remedy for samsara is the view and meditation. However, when they are not implemented and your mind becomes filled with misconceptions and behavior contrary to the Dharma, the understanding of emptiness goes awry, and there is no remedy for it. So it is crucial for you to know this. In summary, at all times and in all situations, let your behavior be calm, subdued, and conscientious, and continuously guard your samayas and vows. Avoid negative, non-virtuous deeds as if they were poison. With no other virtue to practice, apply yourself assiduously to the profound view and meditation, striving in this essential practice for your whole life. By constraining your mind as if you had come into the presence of a judge of the highest court, recognize the importance of restraint. Until you reach the state of extinction into ultimate reality, you must rightly avoid the bad and adopt the good in terms of actions and the consequences. Until you acquire the 4 kinds of great, fearless confidence that are indications of having attained liberation, suffering will result from non-virtue and joy will result from virtue. This can be known by investigating and carefully reflecting upon the nature of samsara and delusion, since you have been constantly addicted to experiencing the cycle of delusive experiences during beginningless lifetimes right up to the present. Even though you may have an ocean of knowledge acquired from hearing the Dharma, if you have no practice of profound meditation, you are like a person who returns empty-handed from an island of jewels, and you will die as an ordinary person and continue wandering in samsara. Therefore, with diligent meditation apply yourself to the essential practice. When you are engaging in practice like this, whether there arises an unprecedented, soothing sense of bliss, or a pristine sense of luminosity, or a nebulous non-conceptuality, if you take any of these to be genuine meditation and cling to it as the fulfillment of your hopes, if you regard these as areas of danger and block them, or if you alter them with your mind, such hopes and fears will lead you astray. In contrast, once you have recognized the nature of meditative experiences, then by letting them be in their own state, without attachment, craving, rejection, or affirmation, they will vanish altogether, like mist disappearing into the sky, and primordial consciousness, pristine awareness will become manifest. You may perceive various disagreeable forms of gods and demons, different kinds of pleasant and unpleasant sounds, assorted foul odors and disagreeable tastes, and diverse kinds of tactile sensations. You may have nightmares and at times wake up in a panic. These experiences may bring forth various types of distress in your heart and mind. Due to your diet, environment, or trauma, illnesses may arise, and merely as a result of coming into contact with soil, rocks, wood, or weapons, you may contract afflictions that are difficult to heal. Outer upheavals, including sores, leprosy, and ulcers, as well as bad omens of apparitions created by gods or demons, may arise. Any of the 404 classes of illness of wind, bile, phlegm, and combinations of these may arise, and, as if the entire might and strength of your mind had seeped away into them, inexpressible suffering may occur. These are called the inner upheavals of physical illnesses. With respect to objects of the mind, you may experience unhappiness, attachment, hatred, craving, unbearable suffering, delight, clinging to the experience of emptiness and luminosity, a sense of sheer vacuity in which appearances and the mind cease, paranoia in which everything you see or feel is out to harm you, or the pride of thinking, "There is no yogin on earth who has a view and meditation like mine." Under the influence of anger and malice, you may disturb the minds of others and afterward feel remorse. You may feel that everything you have done is wonderful and consequently feel free to do whatever you like. Such indeterminate experiences of joy and sorrow are called the secret upheavals of mental joys and sorrows. Know that all such sensations are deceptive experiences that occur as signs along the path. Without attachment, craving, rejection, affirmation, hope, fear, or modification, leave them as they are. By doing so, they will release themselves. Hold this knowledge to be of the highest importance. If your meditative experiences lead to illness and you compound this by attributing it to demonic influence, no matter how much you devote yourself to magic rituals for dispelling obstacles or to medical treatments, they will only harm you without bringing any benefit. However hard you try, you will not benefit even the slightest bit. Eventually, if the century of identifying meditative experiences is lost, this might lead you to go insane, pass out, faint, or become as stupid as an animal, or it might lead to your own death. In the past there have been many faithful students who kept the samayas and vows, and there have always been gurus who became siddhas. So they knew the various dispositions and faculties of specific students, and they led them to the state of Buddha Vajradhara in one lifetime and with one body. Nowadays, even when they are not led astray by anyone, students invariably fail to keep the samayas, they have little faith or reverence, and they are barbaric and prone to false views. And blind teachers hanker after meditative experiences and give teachings that lead the students to meditate with objectification and cling to views and meditation. Consequently, instead of identifying the mere occurrences of pleasure, pain, comfort, and distress as meditative experiences, because of their ignorance of the differences between outer and inner upheavals, they attribute them to demonic influences, thus misleading their own students. Such illegitimate teachers are certain to become maras for the students. There are also outer upheavals that arise solely due to people's specific constitutions and faculties without there being any inner upheaval. Inner upheavals may also arise without there being any outer or secret upheavals. Or secret upheavals may arise by themselves, without any outer or inner upheavals. Thus, it is especially crucial to know how to distinguish among them. Currently, in this degenerate era, when the teachings of the Buddha have fallen into decline, some teachers give instructions to sustain awareness of the movements of the mind. But since even they have no meditative experiences and realizations in such practice, the lives of all such teachers and the disciples are vainly spent in that pursuit, and eventually they die as ordinary people. This has happened many times. Some teachers remain absorbed in a relaxed, gentle state of joy, telling others that this is the culmination of the view and meditation, and they get stuck there. Other teachers have a sense of luminosity in which visions of gods and demons arise, they gain confidence in a steady vividness of the mind and appearances, and they teach this to others. Some gain confidence in a clear, non-conceptual sense of vacuity, devoid of mindfulness, in which appearances are impeded, and they teach this to others. Others gain confidence in an unimpeded, unstructured state of consciousness and present this to others as the best view and meditation. Those who identify the view and meditation in such ways do not rise above the three realms, for they have not realized the view of emptiness. They are imprisoned by that failing, and consequently they do not see the path to liberation and omniscience. Some people idle away their whole lives by being addicted to ragged books and oral explanations, so when death suddenly comes upon them, they lack even the slightest trace of fearless confidence, for they have been fixated solely on hearing and teaching and have taken pride in their affluence and status in this life. For both those who become entranced for their whole lives by delusive appearances and mindsets, and those who become captivated by the knowledge gained from hearing and by teaching, there is no qualitative difference in the objects of the craving, just as there is no difference between being bound by fetters of gold or fetters of rope. Everything that you cling to acts solely as a cause for the bondage of your own mindstream. First you should come to know the critical points and accounts concerning the vast view and meditation. In the end, having sincerely dedicated yourself to essential practice, you will reach the state of liberation without getting caught up in pitfalls and errors. In this way, hearing, the Dharma, goes right to the core. Otherwise, if your pride and sense of self-importance increase due to hearing teachings many times and understanding them, everything you see will become an object for false views and invalid denials and superimpositions. Not even the slightest faith or reverence will arise in your mindstream, and you will be filled with the pomposity of thinking, "There's not a single person like me." Contemptuous of others, you will abuse them. When you hear or witness other renowned people teaching, the power of fierce pride will arise, and out of a sense of envy you will falsely superimpose faults upon them, while denying their actual excellent qualities. For such people, learning becomes a poison, and the foundation is laid for rebirth in miserable states of existence. Therefore, from the very beginning scrutinize such teachers and avoid them. Do not depend upon them. Regard as a Buddha any guru from whom you have received as little as a single verse of instruction, and do nothing to displease your guru even for an instant. If you do displease your guru, you are abandoning all the jhanas of the three times, so no meditative experiences, realizations, or enlightened qualities will arise in your mindstream. Even if merit is accumulated, its fruits will not arise. Even if you engage in practices involving deities and their mandalas, you will actualize nothing but demons and spirits who cause you to break your samayas. The seeds of liberation will dry up and bear no fruit. The trunk of omniscience will rot and its leaves will not grow. Once you have received an empowerment and as few as 3 lines of guidance from someone, even from a non-Buddhist Samkhya, revere him as the foremost of gurus and never withdraw your reverence. When you are sitting, you may take refuge in the 3 jewels by imagining your guru on the crown of your head. When you are walking, visualize your guru on your right shoulder and imagine that you are circumambulating him. This is far superior to circumambulating all the jhinnas of the 3 times. When you eat and drink, visualize your guru at your throat, and imagine your food as ambrosia. That way, whatever you eat will become a Ganakakra offering and a fire offering. When you are meditating and when you are lying down, visualize your guru at your heart. By merging your mind with his, you will experience the non-conceptual primordial consciousness of ultimate reality, and extraordinary realizations will arise in your mind stream. When you are practicing, if you imagine yourself as being of the nature of the deity and protector, you will not mistakenly reify the stage of generation, and a myriad of supreme and common siddhis and enlightened activities will arise. Thus, depending upon a sublime guru without violating this relationship is the supreme core of spiritual conduct. Bodhisattva Vajra of pristine awareness then commented, if all the path and fruitional dharmas were originally, primordially, and completely present in pristine awareness, all sentient beings should certainly have come to the view of the great perfection. So what is the difference between Buddhas and sentient beings? Teacher, please explain. He replied, O Vajra of pristine awareness, it is not like that. There is no difference between all Buddhas and all sentient beings except that the former are aware and the latter are not. So all sentient beings apprehend their own appearances as being other than themselves and thus remain deluded. All Buddhas perceive the purity and equality of samsara and nirvana and are thus enlightened. Therefore, pristine awareness is the great, primordial, originally pure ground, and it recognizes samsara and nirvana as displays of purity and equality. The ultimate reality of pristine awareness that reveals this nature is inconceivable primordial consciousness. Liberation by taking primordial consciousness, pristine awareness, as the path. Bodhisattva Vajra of pristine awareness then commented, O teacher, Bhagavan, if one takes primordial consciousness, pristine awareness, as the path, how is liberation attained? What advantages are there in this? He replied, O Vajra of pristine awareness, once you have gained mastery over primordial consciousness, pristine awareness, if you meditate uninterruptedly, you will attain liberation in this life and with this body, and you will become a Buddha. If a person who had accumulated much karma from the 5 deeds of immediate retribution and another person who had practiced the stage of generation for his whole life were both to identify pristine awareness simultaneously and meditate upon it, since the ultimate nature of mind is not contaminated by faults or virtues, there wouldn't be even a moment's difference in the times of their enlightenment. This is my solemn promise as Samantabhadra. If a person who had engaged in non-virtuous, evil conduct in this life and another person who had accumulated merit for his whole life were both to identify pristine awareness simultaneously and practice it, since awareness transcends cause and effect, there wouldn't be even a moment's difference in the times of their enlightenment. This is my solemn promise as Samantabhadra. If a person who had cultivated profound jhanas in this life and another person who had fallen under the influence of distraction for his whole life were both to identify pristine awareness simultaneously and practice it, since there are no distinctions of good or bad in awareness, there wouldn't be even a moment's difference in the times of their enlightenment. This is my solemn promise as Samantabhadra. If a person who had trained in generating bodhisattva and dedicated himself to the welfare of others for his whole life, and another person who had applied himself to deeds injurious to others for his whole life, were both to identify the nature of pristine awareness simultaneously and practice it, since pristine awareness is liberated in itself, without reference to activities, there would not be the slightest difference in the times of their enlightenment. This is my solemn promise as Samantabhadra. If a person who had tried to control his mind stream for his whole life and another person who had applied himself to the 10 non-virtues for his whole life were both to identify pristine awareness simultaneously and practice it, since pristine awareness does not rely upon other contributing conditions, there wouldn't be even a moment's difference in the times of their enlightenment. This is my solemn promise as Samantabhadra. If a person who had practiced generosity for his whole life and another person who had been a thief for his entire life were both to identify the nature of pristine awareness simultaneously, since there is nothing that can help or harm pristine awareness, there wouldn't be even a moment's difference in the times of their enlightenment. This is my solemn promise as Samantabhadra. If a great evildoer who had killed 100 people and 100 horses in a single lifetime and another person who had devoted his whole life to circumambulations and prostrations were both simultaneously to identify ground pristine awareness, the great liberation from extremes, and to devote themselves to essential practice, since primordial consciousness, pristine awareness, is devoid of modification or transformation, there would not be the slightest difference in their attainment of enlightenment. This is my solemn promise as Samantabhadra. If a person who had spent his life reciting the words of the Buddha and the commentaries and another person who had broken his oaths and lied for his whole life were both to identify pristine awareness and practice it, the state of liberation would not be even the slightest bit further away for one than for the other. This is my solemn promise as Samantabhadra. If a person who, through training and progressing along the grounds and paths, had reached the bodhisattva ground of very joyful and another person who had not entered this jhana in this life were both to identify for themselves the ground pristine awareness that is free of extremes and were to practice and cultivate it together, there wouldn't be even a moment's difference in the times of their enlightenment. This is my solemn promise as Samantabhadra. If a person who had acquainted himself throughout his life with the path pristine awareness and another person who had never seen the entrance to the Dharma were simultaneously to identify the ground pristine awareness, the great freedom from extremes, and were to ardently practice it, there would not be even the slightest difference in the time it would take them to attain enlightenment. This is my solemn promise as Samantabhadra. If a person who had dedicated his whole life to constructing temples and stupas and to protecting the lives of others and another person who had devoted his entire life to taking the lives of others as a butcher were both to identify the ground pristine awareness, the great freedom from extremes, and persistently apply themselves to practicing it, there would not be even the slightest difference in their attainment of enlightenment. This is my solemn promise as Samantabhadra. The point of all this is that all delusive activities, like actions in a dream, are never performed. However, by clinging to the true existence of the mere appearances of activities, you see that which does not exist as being existent. Since those actions neither help nor harm the ground pristine awareness, the great freedom from extremes, they make no difference with respect to attaining enlightenment. No one is benefited by good deeds, so, like space, they do not exist as something good. No one is harmed by bad deeds, so they are of the nature of space, non-objective, intangible, and all-pervasive. The reason that they appear to exist in this way is that through ignorance of the ground, which is your own mode of existence, you wander endlessly in samsara, solely as a result of outwardly clinging to other objects. So once you have become aware of this situation, you attain confidence within yourself and gain mastery over yourself. This is enlightenment, which is like an insane person regaining his senses. In this analogy, until you come to your senses and gain control of your mind, there is no way for your behavior to be anything but insane, no matter what you do. Likewise, until pristine awareness identifies itself and achieves confidence within itself, there is no way that good or bad deeds can make you into a Buddha. So know this. O Vajra of pristine awareness, these qualities are inexpressible. The advantages of identifying pristine awareness and uninterruptedly meditating on it for 6 months are 100, 1,000, even 10,000 times greater than the advantages of performing physical prostrations and circumambulations for purifying obscurations. The advantages of identifying the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, and uninterruptedly meditating on it for 6 months are 100, 1,000, even 10,000 times greater than the advantages of devoting yourself to great acts of generosity for your whole life. The advantages of identifying the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, and uninterruptedly meditating on it for 6 months are far more than 10,000 or 100,000 times greater than the advantages of filling this great galaxy with stupas and holy images made of the 7 types of precious substances and making offerings and devotions to them. The merit of identifying the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, and practicing it for 6 months is 10,000 or 100,000 times greater than the merit of spending your whole life reading the sutras and reciting mantras and so forth. If you identify the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, and practice it for 6 months, the advantages are 100, 1,000, or even 10,000 times greater than the advantages of practicing the profound stage of generation for your whole life. If you identify within yourself the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, and practice it uninterruptedly for 6 months, the merit is far more than 100 or 1,000 times that of generating bodhisattva for all sentient beings and devoting yourself to their welfare for your whole life. If you identify the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, and practice it uninterruptedly, day and night, for 6 months, the merit is far more than 10,000 or 100,000 times that of constantly applying yourself to the 10 virtuous deeds for your whole life. O Vajra of pristine awareness, if you wish to release all the beings of the 3 realms simultaneously from the ocean of suffering of mundane existence, identify the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, and practice it uninterruptedly. If you wish to fathom all the inexhaustible ornamental wheels of the enlightened body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities of the jhinas and jhinaputras of the 3 times, identify the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, and practice it uninterruptedly. If you wish to perfectly attain all the grounds, paths, and sublime qualities of the 9 successive yanas, identify the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, and practice it uninterruptedly. If you wish to manifestly attain the state of the Dharmakaya, the original protector, in this very life and with this very body, identify the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, and practice it uninterruptedly. If you wish to revel in the great purity and equality of samsara and nirvana, identify the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, and practice it uninterruptedly. If you wish to completely perfect the qualities of the 10 perfections, identify the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, and practice it uninterruptedly. If you wish to simultaneously perfect all the facets of primordial consciousness of knowledge, compassion, and power, identify the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, and practice it uninterruptedly. Even if you do not meditate on the sublime qualities of what you have identified, you will undoubtedly become enlightened within 7 lifetimes. Know that the advantages of identifying pristine awareness for yourself are 10 million or 100 million times greater than those of having a vision of 3,000 Buddhas and hearing the teachings all at once. O Vajra of pristine awareness, the vast, single taste of the womb, the mystery of the mind of all the Buddhas and of Samantabhadri, the absolute space of phenomena, free of all origination, cessation, and abiding, is none other than this pristine space. All of samsara, nirvana, and the path is of one taste in the nature of space, and space is the essential nature of all of samsara and nirvana. Space is the universal ground of the totality of samsara and nirvana. Upon recognizing and fathoming space as all the displays of samsara and nirvana, and upon realizing that they are not other than space, you will fathom this space. This experience of space is called the yoga of space. Upon realizing everything as great emptiness, fathoming emptiness as space itself is the real essence of the meaning of emptiness. This is the meaning of possessing primordial consciousness, manifest pristine awareness. Then the entire gathering of disciples, including Bodhisattva VAJRA of pristine awareness, expressed this prayer with one voice and with one mind. Kai. May ultimate reality, free of conceptual elaboration, the spontaneous actualization of the Dharmakaya, and the glory of the kayas and facets of primordial consciousness, be witness to the realization of this prayer, by the force of knowledge, compassion, and power. May there be blessings that this prayer is realized without interferences. With the wisdom of realizing identitylessness, may we authentically realize the originally pure, all-pervasive Dharmakaya, the absolute space of the great purity and equality of samsara and nirvana, free of the 8 extremes of conceptual elaboration, and emptiness endowed with the 3 doors of liberation. Due to the circumstance of grasping at the self, a name is imputed upon a non-existent basis of designation. With discerning wisdom, may we realize this as great identitylessness. In the great, pervasive ground of absolute space, the physical worlds and the sentient inhabitants arise due to deluded ego grasping. With discerning wisdom, may we realize this as great emptiness. With discerning wisdom, may we realize the phenomena of causes and effects, and all appearances of benefit and harm by gods and demons, as great non-objectivity. With discerning wisdom, may we realize Buddhas and sentient beings, and all objectification and reification of hopes and fears, as great identitylessness. With discerning wisdom, may we realize the apparitions of the 8 collections of consciousness, and all appearances of sensory objects, as great identitylessness, as the subjective and objective phenomena of the world, are like the 10 analogies of illusion. With the wisdom of realizing identitylessness, may we comprehend them as great non-objectivity. With the wisdom that perceives the full range of phenomena, and knows reality as it is, may we know the great expanse that totally encompasses the dharmas, paths, and fruitions of the yanas. May we realize the authentic view of awakening to enlightenment in the display of the purity and equality of samsara and nirvana, the originally pure, primordial ground. Thus, samsara, nirvana, and the path are like displays of reflections in the ocean. May the great non-duality, bodhisattva, manifest, and may we reach the supreme path, with no meditation, free of any object of attention, with the non-duality of a subject and object of observation, and free of clinging to negation and affirmation. May we abandon activity and reach the supreme path. Once the obscuring veils of ignorance have been removed from the face of the Dharmakaya, the original, primordial ground, may we reach the foremost of paths. With great primordial consciousness, pristine awareness, may we swiftly reach the foremost of paths, in which we acquire confidence and mastery in the great non-meditation of ultimate reality, free of the effort of progressing in the training. Once the body, speech, and mind have entered the Vajra womb, and the kayas and the eye of great primordial consciousness have been freed of muddled, habitual contaminations, may there arise the vision of the direct perception of ultimate reality. due to the sublime qualities of the vision of direct perception. May we experience the benefits of the sublime ground of very joyful, and the ground and path of a matured Vidyadhara, with the growth of meditative experiences and realizations, as a result of all impure appearances being transmuted into the lucidity of the pure space of pristine awareness. May we achieve progress in meditative experience. By the power of progress in meditative experience, may we cross over to the fifth ground known as difficult to cultivate. And may we attain all the sublime qualities of the ground and path of a Vidyadhara with mastery over life. Once pristine awareness has ripened to its vital essence, may pristine awareness reach its consummate state, in which the phenomenal world is purified, as the great displays of the Kayas and Buddha fields, due to the virtues of reaching consummate awareness. May we cross over to the eighth ground known as immovable. And may we attain all the sublime qualities of the ground and path of a Mahamudra Vidyadhara. Once all appearances of phenomena have been extinguished in great intellect transcending ultimate reality, may we attain confidence and hold our ground. And may we proceed to the path of no more training. By the power of the intellect transcending extinction into ultimate reality, may we cross over to the great 10th ground known as Cloud of Dharma. And may we swiftly attain the sublime qualities of the ground and path of a spontaneously actualized Vidyadhara. Thus, may we come to the culmination, in this very life, of the essential Dharma of this swift path. And before long, may we quickly attain the state of a Buddha. May the primordial consciousness that knows and perceives come ablaze in great, pervasive ultimate reality. And may the three realms of samsara be totally transformed into the nature of the three kayas. May all impure, delusive phenomena be released right now into the space of great, primordial purity, like the dissolution of illusory phantoms. May the mental states and appearances of all sentient beings be dissolved into the great, inner, original space of pristine awareness, like dreams vanishing into absolute space. And may we become enlightened as a youthful Vaskaya. Then the revealer of the original ground said, O Vajra of pristine awareness, when ordinary beings make prayers, first they should invoke all the Buddhas as their witnesses. At the end, for the prayers to be realized, they should repeat the words of truth. Moreover, if potent mantras are recited fewer than 7 times, it is very difficult for them to be effective. On the other hand, if prayers are made and the words of truth are uttered either before a physical representation of the objects of refuge, in the presence of your guru, in the midst of an assembly of many Sangha members, on the 30th day of the lunar month, or at the time of a solar or lunar eclipse, they will be realized. According to Gyatral Rinpoche, this state of enlightenment is likened to a vase, for, as the soul bindu, it encompasses all of samsara and nirvana, while transcending the 3 times. It is called youthful, for it is not subject to aging or degeneration, and it is called a kaya, for it is the aggregate of the inexhaustible enlightened body, kaya, speech, mind, qualities, and activities of all the Buddhas.